That's just great. It took me a few moments to realize the words weren't coming from the radio, but from a cyclist who'd pulled up next to me at a set of traffic lights. He was the owner of a soft-top Mazda mx-5 and, having seen me drive past in the mx-5 RF with the roof down, had frantically pedaled after me for a closer look. And he loved what he saw, saying he preferred the styling to his soft-top. That encounter, and several similar ones in various car parks, came to mind when I read Simon Astley's letter Your Views, the 21st of June, in which, among other things, he called the RF unattractive. It just shows that styling is personal opinion, which is something everyone is entitled to. And although it may seem superficial, looks do matter with this sort of car. So I decided to sow some entirely unscientific research, a Twitter poll, asking people whether they preferred the style of the mx-5 soft-top or RF. Result: a 5,050 tie. An unsatisfying finding, sure, but perhaps one that suggests the RF can, as Mazda hopes, carve out its own appeal. Mind you, our RF isn't looking quite so good after a careless driver reversed into it recently, leaving a dent in the bonnet. More on that next time. Mazda mx-5 RF 1.5 Sport Nav price £24,895, price as tested £25,965, economy 44.5 mpg, faults none, expenses none, previous reports. Like many an amateur runner, I can usually be found taking part in races at weekends. There are plenty of lovely places to run near my Richmond-upon-Thames home. For example, it's only a short jog from my house to the start of Kingston Park Run, which follows a beautiful, flat route alongside the River Thames. Recently, though, I've found myself heading further afield for my running fix, into the undulating Hampshire countryside and beyond. That's meant running up a lot more steep hills, including some fiendishly tough runs on woodland trails. Ouch. The extra leg ache is worth it, though, because driving to rural runs is a perfect excuse to enjoy the mx-5 RF in its natural habitat, flowing country roads. It always performs, too. The steering is beautifully weighted and the gear change satisfyingly positive. When pressed, the 1.5-liter engine is responsive and it sounds lovely, roof up or down. It's simply a pleasure to drive. It shows that Mazda's effort to maintain the traditionally fine mx-5 handling, despite the addition of that heavy folding metal roof, was well worth it. Of course, there's a reason I'm finding running-based excuses to drive into the countryside. My commute to Autocar Towers in Twickenham is a short, traffic-filled urban trawl on roads blighted with speed bumps and traffic lights. Not exactly the terrain in which an mx-5 is most comfortable, then. But the intention of the RF's folding hardtop is to make the car more refined and practical, so that you won't only want to wheel it out on sunny weekends. And the RF is proving surprisingly adept at city life, once you've adjusted to looking up at the masses of SUVs on southwest London streets. The soft suspension handles speed bumps with ease, and visibility is rarely a problem, even with the roof up and the rear windscreen in place. Also, tight urban maneuvering is a breeze. A practical city car, then not quite. You can't really call a car with only 2 seats and a small boot practical. But if you don't need that space, it holds its own on weekdays, with a glorious payoff come the weekend. Price £24,895. Price as tested £25,965, economy 42.0 mpg, faults none, expenses none. Read our previous reports below. First report: our new Mazda mx-5 RF has a hard act to follow. The last time Autocar ran an mx-5 as a long-term test car, editor-in-chief Steve Cropley was so impressed that he bought it. He still owns it too. No pressure, then. So how can the mx-5 RF top that? The answer is with several carefully sculpted pieces of steel, aluminum and plastic, and a clever electrical motor that folds them all up and tucks them neatly away. That would be the retractable fastback, or folding hardtop, if you prefer. Hold down a switch on the dashboard and in around 15 seconds the 3 parts of the roof will be raised, folded and tucked into a special compartment. It's all very theatrical. Undoubtedly, the RF's folding roof takes longer to do its thing than you'd spend manually folding the standard mx-5's softtop, but, frankly, it's all a little more refined. And refinement is exactly what Mazda is hoping the RF brings to the mx-5 range. The design also helps to give the mx-5 RF its own identity. The previous generation mx-5 was available with either a softtop or a hardtop, but once the lids were tucked away, the two cars looked very similar. That's not the case anymore. They look the same at the front, with Mazda's stunning Kodo design themes giving the long, swooping bonnet an elegant yet menacing look. But when the RF's hardtop is down, 2 distinctive rear pillars remain. They ensure you still feel like you're nestled inside a car, even when you can look up and see sky. They certainly give the RF its own sense of style, which, at the risk of enraging mx-5 purists, I prefer. Which Mazda mx-5 do you prefer? The looks of James Atwood at Atters. J. June 22, 2017. Of course, with the roof up, the difference is even clearer, and the mx-5 RF looks more like a proper coupe. In essence, if the mx-5 feels like an open-top sports car with a roof for when conditions get bad, the mx-5 RF feels like a closed-in sports car that you can open up to the elements. It's a small but significant change in mission statement, one that should move the mx-5 from being a brilliant summer weekend car for countryside cruising into something that can cope better with everyday life. But there are two elephants in the room. The first elephant weighs around 40 kilograms, the difference in weight between the RF and its soft-top sibling. Will that extra weight upset the wonderful ride, handling and balance that make the soft-top fun? Thankfully, that doesn't seem to be the case. Mazda has tweaked the anti-roll bar and damper settings and done a remarkably good job of maintaining the original car's feel, our road testers reckon. We'll be testing that more thoroughly in the coming months, of course, but there's no doubt that driving the RF is rarely less than fun and engaging. It's everything you'd want and expect an mx-5 to be. The second elephant in the room is worth around £2,000. The difference in price between the RF and its soft-top sibling. Is that extra outlay worth it for the added refinement, comfort and convenience of having a proper roof over your head? Certainly, on the days when I've driven home from work in pouring rain, I've been very grateful for that roof. But it does have its drawbacks. Getting comfortable in an mx-5 has always been an art form, and with the roof up, the RF is a little tight. The aim might be refinement, but there's nothing particularly refined about squeezing into the car when it's in closed form. I've already lost count of the times I've headbutted the rearview mirror when clambering in. Refinement is also a bit of an issue at speed, regardless of whether the top is up or down. Get up to motorway speeds with the roof up, and there's noticeable wind noise. While traveling on the motorway, I gave up on a phone call ID made through the hands-free Bluetooth infotainment system, because on the other end of the line, my mum could barely hear me due to the wind noise. With the top down, the flying buttresses do a decent job of reducing buffeting, but the trade-off is a droning noise, caused by the wind swirling round them. Of course, few people are going to judge an mx-5 based on motorway journeys, but when the aim of the mx-5 RF is to offer a more refined experience, it's definitely an issue, and, again, one that will need to be investigated and evaluated over the coming months. The roof, and all that entails, isn't the only major difference between the RF and our previous mx-5 long-termer. The other can be found under the bonnet. Our previous car came with the more powerful 2.0-liter engine, whereas this time we've opted for the 129 bhp 1.5-liter, still mated to an incredibly satisfying 6-speed manual box. Perhaps ironically, the 1.5-liter engine arguably offers a more pure mx-5 experience and, so far, I've rarely found it wanting for power or responsiveness. To reflect the fact that the RF is supposed to offer a refined driving sensation, we've opted for the top sport nav trim, which includes heated seats, alloy wheels, automatic lights, lane departure warning and a Bose audio system. Adding optional soul red metallic paint and Nappa leather seats lifted the on-the-road price to £25,965. That brings us back to that £2,000 elephant, and the big question: is it worth the extra money for a fancy folding roof? We've got 6 months to figure that out. And we'll be thinking carefully. After all, we've got form for shelling out our own cash on mx-5s. Mazda mx-5 RF 1.5 Sport Nav price new £24,895, price as tested £25,965, options paint £670, leather £400, economy 42.3 mpg, faults none, expenses none. Read our previous reports on our Mazda mx-5 here.